Happy Future Friday. Olga, I'm so happy to have you here. You've been a longtime friend from New York City, and just watching your journey, it's such an inspiration to me, right? Like we both came from the
Yeah.
depths of McKinsey, and then you were at Microsoft. You were the head of customer enablement at Uncork, which was a no cloud computing solution. And now you've been working with this incredible accelerator, Fractal software, and launching what is this venture-led customer support workforce SaaS company. So you really like, and this is Aimiable, which is behind your screen. So I'm excited to have you here today to share this journey. If you'd kick us off with just where in the world are you calling from, and what are you focused on these days? What is Aimiable all about?
Thank you, Alana. It is my genuine pleasure not just to be here, but also to see you and with you for a nice session together, just on personal level. But just to focus on professional things right now, I'm calling from Miami. I've been traveling a little bit in Europe this summer, but now I'm back full time for school year, back home working here. The weather is still super hot, but it's tolerable at nights. And as far as what I'm working on, like you mentioned, I have spent previous 4 years before this last year building out customer enablement function for a young startup that ended up going double unicorn really, really rapidly. And customer enablement is really close to customer support. So you do a lot of customer education, onboarding, whatever issues they have. It's basically the two functions, kind of blend really well. So I learned that world and got a lot of empathy for people who work in that world. And so when the opportunity presented itself to start my own company, which is something that I've always wanted, customer support space, I was like, oh yeah, I totally understand people there, know the challenges, absolutely admire the type of person that actually goes in customer support kind of career, because those are really a very kind, sweet people generally, because you're basically solving other people's problems all day. So yeah, and the Aimiable is a new type of workforce management for customer support. That means that we basically help customer support teams schedule their time and forecast demand, make sure that the right person is at the right time at the right place so that the customers get to their inquiries answered really, really quickly and precisely by the right person, right? There's when you call somebody and they don't know and they sometimes give you a number, hey, like when you call back, reference that number and there's like 50 digits. Like that's my personal pet peeve. So workforce management is like a type of suite that makes sure that doesn't happen, right? Like everything is much smoother on the customer side. Yeah, it's an operational kind of tech, very heavy ops. We are, of course, leveraging AI. It's very exciting to figure out how to leverage AI in operations because there are some use cases that are good and some use cases that are not so good. But ultimately, it's been a fantastic journey. We launched, I met the most amazing rock star female CTO, Kelly. Then we hired our first engineers really, really rapidly. Now we just finally pushed out MVP and onboarding our first customers. So far, so good. I'm not complaining.
I love that. That's such a crazy journey that you've been on. It's been so fast. And I think that's sort of like the power of an accelerator like Fractal. And like maybe you can share a bit about that. Like how did you decide on this as the opportunity set? I know you probably had like a menu of things to like choose from. And then ultimately, how did you decide to go from working at Uncork to actually being an entrepreneur and being supported by Fractal, which is just like exploding in terms of the software that they're putting out into the world?
Yeah, of course. So I think in general, a venture studio model is interesting because it tends to pair a very talented entrepreneur with an idea that the studio thinks is has a good potential, right? Like a strong idea. You don't have to come from the industry to do an idea with venture studio. I was an exception to that rule. I actually do come from the industry, and my co-founder and CTO also used to build proprietary ticketing systems and knows a lot of about customer support space. And so I gotta tell you, when you do have a match of background and idea, everything's just smoother, everything's just easier. I did have a menu of options available to me. when that time came to choose the idea, but the customer support, I was like, it's a no-brainer because I know it, and that knowledge is going to be an advantage. And then everything else just fell into place. So yeah.
It's so cool. I want to go even like pre-McKinsey for a second and share like what I think is your superpower and why I think you're going to be the most badass female CEO ever. Your story about coming from Russia, you've been like a maid, and then you went to Harvard. And so like if you could just like give at least whatever part you want to share of this story of like from Harvard and then obviously like this really insane career that you've built. Like I think that's super inspiring to people to just see how you can make anything of yourself possible.
You're very kind, Alana. Drowning me in compliments. Thank you. But yeah, of course. So story goes like this. I was born and raised in Eastern Europe. I came to this country to work as a maid. $5 an hour, small motel in New Hampshire, actually. I didn't even get to choose the place, but I ended up in New Hampshire, in a place called Laconia. And there I was for several weeks, cleaning bathrooms and making beds. And I did not love that job. It was not for me. I was not good at it. It felt like I was a bit of a downer compared to what I was expecting America was going to be, but I didn't speak any English. So I was stuck there for a while. And then, funny enough, a few weeks after I've been there, by sheer coincidence, there's this big convention called Laconia Harley Davidson week, bike week. So it happened 3 weeks after I arrived. And I remember waking up into this insane visuals, this hardcore introduction into American culture. There's thousands of men on Harley Davidson motorcycles. And I'm 18 years old and I've never seen anything like this. And I was like, what is this? And as I looked at it, I just immediately knew that somehow this was going to be my ticket. Like somehow I'm going to ride out either with one of these guys somewhere else, or at least make some money so I can get away to a better employment opportunity. And so the second thing happened. I did not meet the boyfriend, but I did get a job. I saved, I remember, $1,000 over the course of the convention. And then I just got on the bus and went to Boston, of all places, because New York was far away and scary. Boston seemed to be a little more approachable. I had a friend with me who was even younger, and the two of us spent a couple of nights sleeping on the bus station, Boston South Station. I still remember it, and looking for jobs and all the rest, and youth hostels and all these crazy moments. But eventually, we were able to establish ourselves. I started doing little shows and nightclubs, like a runway show. Did a little modeling, and then at the end of the summer, I just decided that I was going to stay because I really, really, really liked it, Alana. It felt good. Like America felt good to me always. Felt like being home, and people and just how things done here and opportunities, everything felt right. So I dropped out of college in Russia. My mom was crushed. I stayed in hoping that it's going to work out, and it did actually work out. I spent 2 years working, then I went to college in Boston. I went to Tufts, and then it was a classic, graduated top of my class, went to work in finance in New York, then went to HBS, then McKinsey, then Microsoft, then startup that was successful. Now it's mine. So
no big deal.
No big deal. No big deal.
Stop in Boston to Harvard and start a founder, but yeah.
But like I always say that, I know it sounds maybe a little corny even right now, given like the country is very divided. Like I'm a huge fan of America. America still has American dream alive. Like I've seen it. It definitely happened to me, and so I love this country. Now I'm going to finish on political note.
Hey, I agree with you. I mean, it gets a lot of heat, right, for various things, but there is a massive opportunity here in entrepreneurial spirit, and the idea that like you can have stories like that where you can go from very little to nothing all the way to your biggest dreams, your wildest dreams, and now you're a founder. And I'm just so curious, what's the most exciting thing you've learned on this journey that you'd want others to know as you've been building up the skills to be a founder?
I would say important to keep your eye on your ultimate prize as early on as possible. Like I always wanted this. It's not something that I think you land on randomly. So if you want something badly, even if it's 10 years away, like keep in mind that this is where you're going, and life will serve you opportunities along the way that'll build you up. Like I didn't know that my previous job at Uncork was going to be like absolutely critical to me being successful today. Because without that step, I was completely green and unsophisticated before. I wouldn't have done the right thing now. But at the time, I didn't know it. Now looking back, of course, I can connect the dots. I would say that really just keep in mind your long-term vision. I think that's what it is. Always, 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 and make like long-term plans, and then kind of watch your life serve the opportunities to you in an almost magical way in order for you to like mature into that position. And another thing about entrepreneurship that I want everybody to know before they start, it's an eye-popping journey at the beginning. Like I am accustomed to a lot of intensity, and I'm very quick, and I love, rapid change. I feel like I have a lot of tolerance for it. But even for me, the first few months, I couldn't believe it. Like it was.
I remember that.
Yeah,
I crashed at your place and you were
yeah,
like, Alana, what did
yeah. I was like, I'm not okay, Like I was not okay for several months. Like it's really, literally like day by day. I'm like, I'm just one more day, just one more, just don't die today, you'll die tomorrow. And then strangely enough, though, it settles in. A few months in, once you know what you're doing, it settles in and you can operate more or less on a normal scale. But yeah, if you're ready to have some adventure, I would recommend entrepreneurship, and I would wait for your opportunity to, even if it's not right now.
That's good advice. Like, were there other moments in the journey, even at Uncork or before, where you considered entrepreneurship, and then why you might have pulled back or decided to wait, and then ultimately when you knew, okay, this is the time, this is the moment?
Yeah, I did start a company before that didn't work out. And it was too early for me. Like I said, I was too junior. The team that I put together wasn't the right team. And the idea wasn't also well thought out. It was one of those things where you're like, hey, I'm going to be a founder. I raised some money. Let's make something happen, with no idea of what it actually takes, and how to go about things, how to validate, product, and like product market fit was, I remember, a super loose concept in my mind. You kind of just do what you want and hope that it's going to be a business. So that's not really a right way to go about it. So actually, I'm a second time entrepreneur. The first one was a flop, and it was painful too when it ended, because you get smacked with a pretty obvious realization that like you didn't know what you were doing at all, and that's why it didn't work. It's not about getting lucky or anything. You're just like incompetent. So so go back to square one, back to learning. And the second round, like I'm significantly better prepared, and the results are different too.
So interesting. Is there a person or a company that has really inspired you or is inspiring you right now?
I always look at like heavy hitting female executives. And like every time I see like Wall Street Journal written about some woman, they can be in media or advertising or tech. Um, I always like, I'm envious, of course, but it's in a good way. Like, first of all, yes, right? Second of all, damn, I want that too. So I would say, like, in general, I don't really have like an idol that I'm looking up to, but anybody who's crushed a super senior board level role at a famous company, a female, is a role model of mine. Yeah, I'm reading about it.
Oh, I love that. And yeah, what advice would you give to someone getting started?
Man, it's like so many different advice depending on like what you decide to do and how you decide to do it. But if somebody is thinking of building a company, very important to think through the partnership. And if you don't want to do it alone, who are the people next to you? I mean, it's such an overused advice, and it does not sound irrelevant till you actually go through it and understand when things start becoming difficult, who is next to you and how they're supporting you, and if it's the right complementary skill set or not. All of that. I would say it's number one. If you don't get your partner right, nothing's going to work. And then everything else spirals from there. So I would say pay attention to personalities that you bring with you on your journey. That's number one for me.
So true. Couldn't agree more with that. And I'm curious, I mean, the whole point of these conversations is about the future. And I'm curious if you have any, whether it's like a controversial take or maybe something that other people might not all agree with you on, of where you think the future is going, future of customer service, future of entrepreneurship and fundraising. It could be really on any of those pillars that we've talked about during this conversation.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the AI is going to just, I can talk about my industry easily, of course. AI is going to disrupt customer service because it's going to replace agents. And there are a lot of fear in the industry right now, like what happens to people's jobs. Interesting thing though, that I think there is a way to interpret all those changes from like doom and gloom perspective. And then there's a way to interpret them from perspective of everything changes and that's okay. And so I tend to always lean in a second, kind of be in a second camp. I'm an optimistic person from that perspective. Definitely AI is going to be, excuse me, up our asses in every way you can possibly imagine. Definitely going to affect customer success and support by replacing some of the people's jobs. But the upside of that is for those who remain, the jobs are going to be more interesting because the boring, tedious, repetitive, reset my password kind of thing, that's going away. So I'm actually very hopeful that this industry and customer support is a hard industry to be in. It's a grind. And I'm hopeful that it's going to become more fun as a result of new tech. And so that's kind of the perspective of our solution is that we want to make it easy and flexible and friendly towards agents and help them actually achieve higher satisfaction with their roles.
I love that. And before we close out, if you can give just like the 1 minute, like Aimable, like who would work with you guys? If someone's listening right now, who would this be good for? And then also just how do we follow along with you personally and Aimable as you progress on this journey as a founder?
Yeah, Lana, thank you for that question. Of course, of course. So our customers are leaders of customer support teams. So it can be any company that has a customer support department or a contact center. So anytime you provide customer support, you typically have a pool of agents. Sometimes somewhere at 15 to 20 agents, you're going to start having operational problems. And if you are using spreadsheets for that, like schedule forecasting, it's going to make your life a living nightmare. So this is when you turn to Aimiable. Basically, just automate repeatable tasks that will come up with every customer support team. The really is that we are aiming to make things easier than a lot of other platforms in the market just because the platform's new, uses all the latest tech, like the AI is going to optimize just even the way how you interact with the platform, make it easier. Everything's just easy. That's the whole thing. Take the work out of workforce management. That's the big tagline for us. So yeah, anybody who's running customer support team, a director, a VP, or a manager, and looking for automation, this is, I'll be really, really thrilled to hear from them.
Amazing. And how do we keep in touch with you as a founder?
Keep in touch with me. Find me on LinkedIn. It's Olga Gomonova or Olga at Aimiable. Olga at Aimiable.io. I reply to all my emails.
Amazing. I love it. Well, I so appreciate this conversation. It's beautiful to hear your journey, and I'm so excited to see you building this incredible company. It's such an inspiration.
Thank you, Alana. It's always wonderful to talk to you, really.
We'll be in touch. Thanks, Olga.